Thank you for reading this. My name is Livy, and I'm writing this book because we are currently on an adventure. I am studying the history of the Invisible War at my Sharia, and it is becoming increasingly obvious it is far more dangerous than I originally thought. So hopefully, future generations will read this and understand the history behind our great country. Or our next adventurers will find this and won't have to restart from the beginning. I'm hoping for the former. Now, it all began in a dream, where I met people I've never seen before and fought snake woman in a maze of green. And at the end, we saved what turns out to be a god, a half-centaur woman, who told us my Sharia was not the god, through her knowledge and in this timeline. Unfortunately, before I could ask more, I was woken up, and at first I thought it was all a dream, which I suppose it is. But after I checked my bag, I found artifacts. From the dream, golden arrows. I knew I had to find the other people in the dream, these other companions, and so I searched. Finally, I landed at a bar where I met a young half-orc named Ziba, or maybe Didi, we're not 100% sure yet. She's a fiery young lady with a huge, short, and bigger muscles. And when I saw her, she was arm wrestling some idiots. Quickly after we got introduced, I saw our temporary companions, Leofrich and Anchor. Leofrich is a supposed priest of my Sharia with a prideful attitude, but very loyal. Anchor is a warforged and carries his namesake around like a purse. He has a colorful personality, to say the least. They recognized us and also had artifacts from the dream. We all knew it was real. And while getting introduced, Leofrich got a letter from the city, from Valencia, telling him to go back, but not to the temple, to the castle. Strange. I knew I must follow. And so did Didi. She wants to be a hero after all. So we went to Valencia and stopped at a tavern called the Drunken Stump, where we met another temporary companion from the dream, Keg, a lizard-born with an interesting idea of what city life is like, but a better idea of the woods. We also met a crying woman telling us of her missing daughter, Kepa. She was an initiate at the temple, and she hadn't responded to any of her letters, which is apparently odd. I agreed to help search for her, and my companions also agreed. The next morning, we went to the temple, only discovered it completely abandoned and having an odd aura. Keg and I checked, and it felt demonic, and the grass tasted dead, according to Keg, of course. There, stepping out from the shadows, we met the High Priestess Genevieve. He confronted us and asked us to step away from the temple. Leofrich tried to tell her he was a member, and at first she was receptive, but after I asked about Kepa, all warmth was gone, and we were all disbanded from the church. This was obviously bad news. For Leofrich, at least, I don't really care. But we needed more information. Leofrich tried to get into the temple, get into the castle, where all of the members were locked in, and staying. Well, we did some other adventures, wolves, etc. Not really too important. But after we all reunited, with some bickering, I might add, Leofrich was able to spot very little besides the princess of the entire castle. She was with Genevieve. I wasn't satisfied. But I also know we discovered very little, especially about Kepa. And so I knew we had to tell her mother that apparently she was disowned by the church. Didi agreed to join me, and we discovered something horrible. Kayla's mother's place was ransacked. We investigated her home, and thankfully she'd managed to escape. But we also found a journal detailing both Kepa and his mother's dealings with the church, and how it wasn't what it seemed. We were outside and suddenly heard something from inside the house. We hid in bushes and saw Genevieve entering the premises. And then, as she passed a mirror, she did not have a reflection. We panicked and ran. And while we ran, and we discovered suddenly hordes of frogs and snails had started appearing. Didi stomped on one, and when she did, a horrifying creature sprang out. We managed to escape, and after calming down, agreed to continue researching what was going on and being honest with everybody. Unfortunately, we never really got the chance. After we woke up, someone had broken into the drunken stump and completely disassembled Ingar and stole his heart. Livy was in disarray, and Keg was doing Keg things. We needed more help, obviously. So, I did a little bit of research and remembered some place called the Carousel Court. And specifically, a red dragonborn named Gahesh. I wasn't sure exactly how he was tied to them, but apparently they're looking into Mashiria just as much as we are. So we needed all the help we could get, but we had no information on where to find them. But if they really were interested in learning the secrets of Mashiria, they had to be researching the temple. So we asked around, and while questioning a potential witness, Didi saw someone entering the temple from the rooftop and ran off. I joined her. And in the temple we found Gahesh and a mysterious second man with an odd mask. I would learn his name is Godfrey, and he's just as willing to heal you as he is to punch you. But introductions couldn't be long, for we were soon attacked by gargoyles. Apparently the church wasn't so churchly after all. We agreed to investigate together, although we were all obviously suspicious. In the temple we found a hidden entrance. A picture of Genevieve with different eyes, undead skeletons, and a hellhound. But most concerning of all, we found a secret room with a grotesque symbol on the floor, an odd black book, and Kepa chained to the wall. We rescued her, and while the spell book was in a language I could not decipher, I used a spell and was able to understand the language for a short period of time. I did what I could within the hour I had, after of course going somewhere safe, to decipher it. We had managed to get Kepa to a doctor, where after she recovered, she told us what the church was really doing, summoning demons. Horrifying stuff. The other two strangers, Godfrey and Kapesh, agreed to lead us to the Carousel Court, where we were introduced to a host of other people. One was named Morgus, a dwarf. A delightful man who was as learnedly as I am, but far better cook. And then there was another woman. Her name was Silly, I believe, and she was a rough-looking woman with an iron steel and odd armor. After our introductions were done, we agreed we had to get into the castle, preferably tonight. Morgus and I agreed to do research. Everyone else agreed to scout. As Morgus and I were researching, we realized not only she was summoning demons, but preferably a demon army. Also, we discovered Morgus could understand those strange writing, much to apparently his shock. Scout had also come in and told us all the initiatives were coming back to the temple, and there was just Genevieve and the princess. The king had also not been seen for weeks. We know we need to strike tonight. So we rejoined the others outside the castle in the garden, and as we were trying to find a way to sneak in, a woman collapsed, and then the guards. A spell. It was happening. For going stealth, we rushed into the castle, and in a dark room, we found Genevieve above one of the symbols with a strange glowing artifact and chanting something that we could not decipher. We sprang into action and got into a deadly fight. She sent wave after wave of demons at us and transformed to a horrifying abomination. Whether she was still Genevieve or really a demon, we had no idea. Godfrey managed to destroy the artifact, and Didi slew what was once Genevieve. We had succeeded. But there are still so many mysteries. What really happened in the Invisible War? Where was the king? Would there be more demons? And who really is my Shiria?